The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Friday, January 9th. It is an unusual time, but so be it. Still wanted to get to the news today, a day full of news. So we will jump right to it. A quick reminder, you can ask questions. You can support the show with a sticker. You can ask questions through the super chat. And that way I'll talk about whatever you want me to talk about. All right, let's jump in with the situation in Iran. I think the most important story out there, in spite of everything else going on in the world, this is it. This is it, because this really does now have the potential of becoming a real revolution. That is, it has the real potential to see the overthrowing of the Khamenei, the Islamic Republic's regime. Yesterday, masses of people, millions of people came out into the streets and demonstrated. There was, before the demonstration started, the regime shut down all communications. The internet went silent. Starlink still works, although they're trying to jam it. They've been trying to jam it now for 2 days. But the entire internet was down. They even restricting phone service and cellular service. Everything is shut down. Some cities don't even have power. In spite of that, millions, it looks like over 1 million people came out into the streets of various cities around Iran, from Tehran, but also the other large cities in Iran, which had not seen as many demonstrations as some of the smaller cities. And the demonstrators were more aggressive. They were burning down mosques, government buildings, and they were shot on. So yesterday we saw significant casualties. The Ayatollah has decided to fight back. He has unleashed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. He's taking these demonstrations out of the hands of local authorities and out of the hands of the police and even out of the hands of the militias that usually suppress demonstrations. And now he's bringing in the army, or the particularly units of the army loyal to the regime, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and they're shooting demonstrators. Hospitals were busy, but in spite of that, people at the end of the day, in the night, went home. And then earlier today, and it's still ongoing, Tehran is, what did we say? It's 7 or 8 hours ahead of where I am, 8 or 9 hours ahead of East Coast. So it's 2 in the morning right now, or something like that, in Tehran. Even more people came out into the streets today throughout Iran, including the major cities outside of Tehran, including the birthplace and home of Khamenei himself. Today, I can see video of a government building burning in the city of Karaj. I can see a mosque burning in Tehran. Imagine that, they're burning mosques. More shooting, more killing. Pictures from hospitals are pretty horrific in terms of the number of casualties coming in, the number of injured coming in. Again, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard has been unleashed on the crowds. But look, never before have the Iranian people come out a day after the kind of bloodshed we saw yesterday, and a communication blackout, and a promise of more bloodshed. In the past, some bloodshed, communication blackout, internet blackout, and people gave up. The Iranians do not seem like they're giving up at all. And we will see We will see what happens. I mean, the next few days are going to be key. Can they sustain it? What happens to the regime? Do they start attacking regime installations? There's still, what is the mechanism? What do they do? Where do they go? Is there a presidential palace they can take over? Is there a parliament building they can take over? What exactly are they going to do? What does it look like for these demonstrations to turn into something that actually sees the regime collapse? I still think we're going to have to see some units within the Iranian military flip over the demonstrator side in order to see something happen. And I think if that happens, then you start seeing regime officials start fleeing, running away. I mean, there's already stories about them getting visas to France and communicating with Moscow, and most of them don't want to go to Moscow. They'd rather go to Paris. But they will flee. One of the ministers and his whole family are in Beirut right now. So they are going to get ready to escape. But the Iranian people are out in the streets. And the question is, what is the end game? Where does this lead to? How long do they have to be in the streets for how many people have to die in the streets of Tehran and other Iranian cities for this regime to collapse? And when, if ever, do we see some of the military units come to their support? Supposedly Khamenei is the conflicting reports. I mean, it's very hard to actually find out what's going on. I mean, again, I know that some of you have sent me links to a number of different broadcasters who are broadcasting live. I watch those links and I appreciate what they do, and they're very courageous, and I know it takes a lot of work. But it's hard to tell sometimes how much checking they do on the reports that they transmit. It's also very hard to tell whether they're being maybe a little over-optimistic about the success, and whether they have thought through how this plays out and what exactly happens. But in spite of the internet shutdown, video is reaching outside of Iran, primarily through Starlink. People are making phone calls through Starlink. So there is some communication about what is going on there. It sounds brutal tonight. It sounds really bad. But it also seems like the Iranian people are more committed than ever to actually going out. The regime itself, this morning, told people not to come out and not to bring their kids out unless because they expected shooting to happen. They expected violence, that the regime would not hold back. Indeed, a number of members of the regime have said that they will not back down. Khamenei himself gave a speech yesterday. Well, it was today, I guess Friday, so earlier today, basically saying the Islamic Republic would not back down in the face of the protests, and that they would use whatever force was necessary in order to suppress it. He presented a tough image of we're going to fight this to the end, and which is not a good sign for the demonstrators, at least not at this point. Rumors are also flooding, out there that some of the banks in Iran have failed, that the entire financial system is collapsing. ATM machines are not working. There've been runs on the banks, and the banks are collapsing. Hard to tell, and given the rate at which they're inflating their currency, it could very well be the case that these banks are basically going away. Of course, Trump repeated again today that if they start shooting demonstrators, the United States would intervene. Well, this is now the second night in a row. I mean, they've been shooting demonstrators for a week now, but this is the second night in a row where they've been shooting demonstrators in quantity, if you will, aggressively and persistently. The question now, of course, is, does the U.S. do anything? Will Trump do, or is he just spouting off nonsense? We will see. I said yesterday that Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah, was going to meet with Trump. I don't think that meeting ever happened. So I think, again, that was kind of fake news. It's very hard to tell sometimes what is real and what is not. Again, there's a lot of different interest groups and a lot of just rumors floating around, and sometimes it's hard to tell. I don't think he's met Trump yet. He did pin this note on Twitter. Mr. President, this is an urgent and immediately call for your attention, support, and action. Last night, you saw the millions of brave Iranians in the streets facing down live bullets. Today, they are facing not just bullets, but a total communication blackout. No internet, no landlines. Ali Khamenei fears the end of his criminal regime is at hand at the hands of the people, and with the help of your powerful promise to support the protesters, has threatened the people on the streets with a brutal crackdown. And he wants to use this blackout to murder these young heroes. I've called the people to the streets to fight for their freedom and to overwhelm the security forces with sheer numbers. Last night, they did that. Your threat to this criminal regime has also kept the regime's thugs at bay. But time is of the essence. The people will be on the street again in an hour. I am asking you to help. We have proven, and I know you're a man of peace and a man of your word. Please be prepared to intervene to help the people of Iran. So we will see if the United States does anything. Based on what Trump has said, the regime has already contradicted him, violated his threshold. According to what Trump said, the United States should intervene, but whether they will or not, almost impossible at this point to say. I'm skeptical. Of course, Israel is on high alert. Israel could do it. I don't think Israel will do it without a green light from the United States. Actually, I'm sure Israel will not do it without a green light from the United States. I think they're basically waiting. They're basically waiting for the U.S. to make up its mind about what it wants to do. You just give Israel a green light. I mean, Trump wouldn't even have to deploy American planes. He could just unleash the Israeli Air Force and do it. So, we will see. Tehran's chief prosecutor, again today, we will show no leniency towards instigators of the unrest. They will be charged with fasal, that is spreading mischief on earth, which carries the death penalty. So they are sounding tough. Let's see if there's anything else out of Iran. There's no question that the scale of the demonstrations, the number of people out, and the number of cities in which the demonstrators are happening has increased significantly since January 7th. Over the last 2 nights, there's been a dramatic increase. There was 156 demonstrations yesterday across 27 provinces, which was double the number of protests recorded on January 7th. And the protests are much larger. Significant, large in small places and large places. And of course, I still think the most important place is ultimately going to be Tehran and maybe a couple of the other very large cities. If once they fall, the rest of the country will follow pretty quickly. Again, Ali Khamenei is being said, according to The Economist, to have been taken to a somewhere inside Iran where he is hidden, and he did appear in not public but made a public address today, but he was shuffled from there straight into hiding. All right, let's see. Anything else? Here's this is the kind of post that makes you laugh, right? Millions of Mossad agents on the ground planning this for sure, guys. Millions of Mossad agents. Like the entire population of Israel, there's millions. They're all in Iran. They're all Mossad agents. It's pretty funny. All right. Here's one thing that I found interesting. Both the intelligence assessment coming out of U.S. intelligence agencies and the intelligence assessment coming out of the Israeli intelligence agency is that while a few days ago these protests were unlikely to lead to a revolution, that they were perceived as of a few days ago to be too small, too insignificant to lead to an actual revolution. As of today, both intelligence agencies are reassessing and think that this is of substance, that this is serious, and this could pose a serious threat to the regime. So we could have some good news in the next few days. A lot of Iranians, unfortunately, will probably die, right, in the process. But it could ultimately lead to a fall of the, just horrific regime. And as I've said, I'll say it again, it's worth repeating. I really do think, and I think I can, this is not hard to prove, this will be the most significant geopolitical event since the fall of the Berlin Wall, easily, probably, potentially, the most significant geopolitical event since the beginning of the Cold War, that is, since the building of the Berlin Wall. Really, the fall of the Berlin Wall happened, in a sense, over time with Petroshka and with Gorbachev's easing. I mean, there weren't that many strains by the late 1980s. But, the building of the Berlin Wall changed the dynamics, global dynamics. This has the chance, on the positive side, to be the most positive thing since the victory in World War II. So, yep. I am eager to see what happens. Just looking at the implication here for oil. Let's see. Oil strikes so currently output of oil hovers about just under 5 million barrels of crude, which is a lot. Now, that's barrels a day. What we haven't seen yet, and what ultimately changed the dynamics in 1979, was when the oil fields went on strike. When the workers in the oil field went on strike, that was the end of the Shah's regime, because that was the end of revenue, that was the end of income. If the oil fields go on strike, then I think it's just a matter of time. But we haven't seen it yet. All right, let's see. What else did I want to say? Yeah, I mean, think about Iran. Iran sells 90% of its oil to China. Huge geopolitical event if Iran stops being sanctioned and is a constant source to the Chinese. Again, if Iran now integrates into the Western world, then just like the rest of the Arab world, it is very susceptible to what Washington wants them to do with the oil. And if Washington at some point, because China's invaded Taiwan, says no more oil to China, they don't sell oil to China. So China's worried about what's going on in Iran and would like to see the regime remain. Of course, Iran is one of the very few allies that Putin has, and supplied him with drone technology that has allowed the Russians to stay in this war. So they have a huge stake. And then, of course, just the idea that the people would rise up against an Islamist Sharia law regime kind of takes out all the air from the radicals out there, from the from the radicals in Europe, from the Muslim radicals in Europe who would like to bring Sharia to the world. It just deflates them completely. It would see the complete collapse of the Islamist cause, or at least a massive setback to the Islamist cause, and make Europe a lot more peaceful and a lot easier to deal with Islamists everywhere in the world. All right. Let's see. Twitter has changed the official flag emoji of Iran from the Islamic Republic flag to the old Iranian flag with the lion and a sword in the middle. So good for X. We will see. I don't know. Again, these are the kind of rumors that I hate to report, but who knows, right? Okay, so this is breaking news. Unconfirmed, of course. Unconfirmed reports that the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has submitted his resignation to Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Who knows? Who knows? And who knows what that means? There's no confirmation. So if Grok checked all the news sources, cannot confirm this. So again, hard to tell. Hard to tell. Probably too early for that to happen. And if it does happen, then again, it's you'll see the beginnings of fragmentation within the ruling regime, which will signal the upcoming collapse. They'll start going at each other. They'll start running. They'll start fleeing the country like rats, the rats that they are. So, yep. All right. What else do we have? Venezuela. All right. Venezuela. So a bunch of stuff is happening vis-a-vis Venezuela. We'll take it one by one. We'll start with the fact that Venezuela, on an incredible positive side, it sounds like Rubio really put pressure on this Venezuelan regime, and the consequence of that is that today they freed a significant number of political prisoners. Originally, when I read it, it sounded like they were only going to release foreigners that were being held as political prisoners, often used to trade with other countries, as they did with America. They traded with the United States, but trade prisoners for prisoners. But I saw photos and video of Venezuelan opposition leaders. So people who oppose the regime in Venezuela being released. One of the leaders of the opposition party, a number of the leaders of the opposition party, saw them celebrating with their family as they reached home. So this is great news, and indicates maybe, potentially, that this whole thing could lead ultimately to some kind of actual, election, to an acceptance of the opposition and acceptance of ultimately opposition rule. It really is hard to tell, right? It's hard to tell because everything could change. It's a dictatorship there. So all it takes is the people at the top to decide otherwise, and everything changes. So still hard to tell, but some positive signs. In addition, the Venezuelan Foreign Ministry has announced that it has decided to initiate what it is calling exploratory diplomatic process with the United States in order to address mutual interests, as well as the, quote, kidnapping of former President Maduro. As part of this diplomatic process, the Foreign Ministry confirmed the arrival of a delegation of U.S. Department of State in Caracas, while stating that delegation of Venezuelan diplomats will be sent to the United States. Supposedly, the current dictator of Venezuela wants to come to Washington to meet with Trump. That might happen in the next few weeks. So she wants to suck up to Trump. And indeed, a number of U.S. Staff have arrived in Caracas. The United States has had a Venezuelan affairs unit that runs out of Colombia since 2019. And they have an acting U.S. ambassador to Colombia, John McNamara, and the people in the embassy in Colombia, the people who are part of this Venezuelan affair unit are the ones going over that have gone over to Caracas to start negotiating, to start maybe setting up the opening of the embassy in Caracas. That is the plan, at least. So it seems like on the diplomatic front, things are easing, and there's a certain openness on the part of the dictators in Caracas to appease the Trump administration. Trump said, I think earlier today, like, we had a second strike, and I stopped the second strike because they're behaving themselves. So he keeps threatening the second strike, and I think they're taking him seriously. So in that sense, exactly what the goal is, who knows, but it seems to be working. Today, Trump, Rubio, Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy, Doug Burgum, Interior Secretary, met with executives from 17 oil companies. I saw photos where Tucker Carlson was like at this meeting. I'm not sure if that's real or not. Maybe it was at the reception after or before. Anyway, you had all the major oil companies at this meeting today. Not clear what exactly came out of that meeting. Basically, Trump told ConocoPhillips that they need to abandon their $12 billion legal claim against Venezuela for seizing their oil. So much for property rights restitution. That's not what Trump wants. So he's basically telling him to drop it, and he's asking the oil companies to invest in Venezuela, Chevron, which is already there, basically is saying, yeah, no problem, we can increase capacity. It's not that hard. And then Exxon is basically saying Venezuela is uninvestable. It's uninvestable. It's too risky, it can be done. If this is the CEO of Exxon, if you look at the commercial constructs, frameworks in place in Venezuela today, it's uninvestable. Significant changes have to be made to these frameworks, the legal system. There has to be durable investment protections and change to the hydrocarbon laws. He basically said, they've nationalized our stuff twice. Twice. We're not going to fall for that again. Now, I think Trump's inclination would be, we'll insure you, we'll guarantee you, we'll subsidize you. Just go invest there. So, we will see. We will see. Now, it's hard to imagine investing in Venezuela, where you really need oil at about $80 a gallon to be profitable. Oil right now is at $59 a gallon. There are other places in the world that are much easier investments, a lot less political risk, a lot lower risk of losing money. Venezuela also demands a 50% royalty rate, has a 33% tax rate, and of course you've got security challenges, rule of law, and horrible infrastructure. So the likelihood that, American oil companies are going to rush into Venezuela is very small. It's just not going to happen. It's wishful thinking on the part of Trump. It's still not clear exactly what the whole Maduro thing is all about. It's still not clear to me why they couldn't have just cut a deal with Maduro to open up his oil market. I don't know. I have no idea. What's the end game? What's the purpose? What are they trying to achieve? I mean, maybe it's just what it looks like, which is Trump wants to control the oil in Venezuela. He wants absolute control over that. Who it sells to. He actually said today that okay to sell to China. We'll sell it. We'll sell it to China. So yeah. What exactly they're doing, hard to tell. Now, they are chasing down the tankers, so they are committed to kind of this oil embargo. They're not allowing tankers to leave Venezuela with oil unless the United States has approved it. 16 tankers have escaped the U.S. blockade. They did it on January 3rd, just after the arrest of Maduro. 16 of them fled. 2 are being seized, right, including... so total have been seized 5, 2 of those 16. So there's still 14 out there that are part of the shadow fleet that the U.S. has not captured, is not seized. So yeah, early this morning they got the 5th boat, which the Coast Guard boarded. You can see video of it. It's quite dramatic. The video of boarding the ship and taking it over. Yeah, it's pretty dramatic. See helicopter and a boat, and they climbed up on board. This ship was loaded with 700,000 barrels of crude from Venezuela. It had loaded up on December 24th and was heading. Who knows? The owner is a Hong Kong company, probably heading to China, and the tanker is now on its way back to Venezuela again to be controlled by, to be whatever by the United States, by Trump. Trump makes all oil decisions. About 70% of Venezuela's oil exports rely on these sanctioned vessels to get around U.S. sanctions of its own oil industry. Both Russia, Iran, and Venezuela all use this armada of old, falling apart vessels to get oil to markets. All right. I guess some of this is to signal to China, to Russia, that the United States has the capacity to blockade and to block these shipments from happening. All right. All right. Where are we? Yes. All right. So that is Venezuela. Keep you updated as we get any clarity on this. This story will probably take years to really evolve and to really understand what they're doing, weeks, if not months. So unless something dramatic happens, you probably won't be hearing from me much about it. Let's see. Let's talk about what happened in Minneapolis, the ICE shooting, murder, in my view. More video has come out, more video, this time what looks like body cam from either body cam or from his iPhone, from the shooter himself. I think this, solidifies my position that, he was actually not being run over, that, she had. So this video right before the shooting, he first of all, he goes and stands in front of the car, of the SUV. According to all the regulations, all instructions to law enforcement, including ICE, you don't stand in front of a vehicle. You stand to the side, you don't stand in front, and you don't try to stop a fleeing a fleeing suspect. You take down the license plate number and you go chase him down later. Particularly for a relatively insignificant offense, which is, I don't know, maybe obstructing. It's not clear what they had against her, but maybe obstructing. So he stands in front of the SUV, but to the side, not center, to the side. And you can see, so the camera's facing her directly. And you can see her turning the wheel to the right to go around him. So yeah, she gets very close. And maybe he needs to move a little bit so she doesn't hit him. But he only shoots. This is the shooter. This is the shooter. Is the shooter. And he gets out of the way, but draws his gun, shoots her through the front windshield, and then shoots her twice through the side windshield. By that point, the car's already gone. He's no risk to his life. So the more video I see, the more slow motion I see, the more still photos I see, the more convincing. You know, I'd say unequivocal, but so many of you don't seem to come to the same conclusion as I do. So, I don't know what to say, but certainly convincing, if not unequivocal, that this was not an act of self-defense. This was an act of panic, of arrogance, of stupidity, of lack of professionalism on behalf of the agent. Now, she probably shouldn't have driven away, given how aggressive ICE is. You got to be careful of these bastards. But again, even if she was breaking the law by driving away, even if she insulted a cop, even if it wasn't the right thing to do, doesn't justify a death sentence on the spot, death sentence. And then, as I said yesterday, the behavior afterwards of just walking around. I mean, they were almost high-fiving and nonchalant, not giving her medical aid when her car, because she died, her foot pressed on the accelerator, zoomed in and crashed into a car in front of her. And she's lying there, bleeding out. Nobody ran over. I mean, finally, the shooter went over and looked, and he said, "Oh, you guys should call 911. Really? I mean, these are like, what? I don't know. These are like paramilitary forces running around our streets. And what is the response? What is the response? Well, this one is the best response of all, right? This is from as you know, my favorite commentator out there, almost my favorite, one of my favorites. Anyway, Matt Walsh. This is what Matt Walsh had to say, right? This is what a good Christian Matt Walsh, father, family man, had to say about what happened, right? He says, this lesbian agitator gave her life to protect 68 IQ Somali scammers who couldn't give less of a shit about her. The most disgraceful and humiliating end a person could possibly meet. This is so disgusting, so despicable. I mean, if they've got 68 IQ Somali scammers, how did they do the scams? 68 IQ. The car was not pointing at the shooter. She turns the wheel away from the shooter. You can literally see her turn the wheel. Literally see her in the video turning the wheel and then driving away from the shooter. It's not even debatable, guys. Just watch the video, not with your biased view to justify anything a law enforcement officer ever does, not your biased view of defending Trump no matter what and defending this ugly, horrific administration. Not with a Matt Walsh view of she's a lesbian, therefore she must be bad, And Somalis, 68 IQ, and now they're racist. You know, take off the racism for a little bit, take off your blinders, and actually look. She's turning the wheel away from him. Matt Walsh is a disgusting, despicable human being. We're talking about a U.S. citizen, this woman, a mother. She just was killed in cold blood. Cold blood. She didn't commit suicide. I mean, the right, these nutty, crazy Matt Walsh rightists are presenting this as if it's a suicide. So it's not justifiable self-defense. Indeed, if you did this, if you shot somebody on that basis, with that video evidence, and the photos you get from that, you would be sent to jail for a long time. And if you would be sent to jail, so should this cop. And absolutely not justify self-defense. He put himself into a position of harm. He should have never been in front of that vehicle. Never been in front of that vehicle. And when her I don't know, wife, whatever, tells her, move, 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 she's telling her to get away because they're trying to break into her car. Break into the car. They have no right to try to open her door and drag her out of the car. It's not how law enforcement would function. Law enforcement would go up, talk to her, ask her to get out. These people didn't do that. Ran up to the car, grabbed the handle, tried to open the door. So her wife says, move, move, move. Yeah, get out of here. Yes. Not move, 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 run over this guy. That's insane. And clearly counter to the evidence presented. Yeah, Pete Gupta says, ramming into the agent would mean van accelerating towards him, which would have prevented him from pointing and shooting. And he shot very effectively, very accurately. But you can see, I mean, there are photos of when exact moment he makes the first shot. And he is away from the vehicle. He is not being run over by the vehicle. He is already safe distance from the vehicle when he makes that first shot. Never mind the second and third shot, which are nowhere near self-defense. He put himself in a position of harm, and he inflicted Anim says, she put herself in a position of harm. If people should harass ICE, which other law enforcement should be harassed by the citizenry? IRS agents? ICE should definitely be harassed. They are roaming around the streets in body armor and masks. They should definitely be protested. They should definitely be challenged. Absolutely, and filmed. Sitting back and pretending this isn't a massive violation of your rights. If IRS agents start going door to door and knocking on your door and demanding to come in to see what assets you have in the home, then they should be harassed. Absolutely. When you get stopped by an ICE agent for no reason, you've done nothing, they should be harassed. At least filmed. We're not talking about insurrection. We're talking about standing by, yelling shame at them. Nobody is pulling weapons out and fighting them. Nobody has attacked an ICE agent. You know, maybe some people threw some stuff at them in LA. Nobody's attacking ICE agents. Peacefully, demonstrating peacefully, videotaping, and given the extent at which ICE is violating people's rights, given the extent at which they're harassing individuals, given the extent in which they are physically harming human beings. They need to be stopped. They need to be, what they're doing needs to be shown to the world. And the American public needs to express their dissatisfaction with what they are doing. God, these guys are armed to the teeth. Who the hell is attacking them? They're pulling guns out on unarmed civilians. This is America. I don't know. When do you think it's appropriate to stand up to the government and say no? Ever? Do you think it's ever? I mean, is it the case? Is it the case that whatever the government asks you to do, whatever a government officer asks you to do, you go, yes, sir, immediately, sir, of course, sir, I'm at your disposal, sir. This is the land of don't tread on me? This is the land of liberty and freedom? This is the land of individual rights? You people who claim to be pro-liberty, you want to just hand over your rights to law enforcement in the name of 68 IQ Somalis and deporting them? That's more important than your rights? You're important than your liberties? This is about as close as we've been to a police state. You've got police roaming the streets, demanding you identify yourself. I don't know. That sounds like a police state to me. It's as close as we've been. I'm not saying shoot them. I'm not saying start the revolution. But pull out a camera to record what they're doing, absolutely. Yell at them and shame them, absolutely, because they should be ashamed of their behavior. They should be ashamed of what they are doing. If you don't, you're inviting them to tread on you by saying, no, I can't object. They're law enforcement. Always do what law enforcement tells you, guys. That's my advice. Always do what law enforcement tells you. That is ridiculous. Particularly after months of seeing ICE abusing their power over and over and over again. I get it. I've already lost a lot of subscribers over this. That's fine. And I'll lose more. I really don't care. My standard is the truth and freedom and liberty. And as a domestic issue, I can't think of anything more, horrific than the actions of ICE. I mean, if ICE was going after criminals, okay. ICE was going after gang members, okay. But ICE is not doing any of that. Indeed, it shot a U.S. citizen because an unprofessional ICE agent panicked because in the past, he was traumatized by the fact that in the past, he'd smashed he'd smashed somebody's back window, reached in to try to open the front door, which is, again, against all police protocol. Amateur behavior. And then the guy started driving and dragged him along. And he had to have, 33 stitches as a consequence. And now he's traumatized by cars. So he shoots anybody who he fears on its way. The guy has shown he's unprofessional, doesn't know how to deal with people. And what are people smashing people's car windows for? You'd think they were going after murderers. You'd think they were going after, terrorists. This is what you do with terrorists. But no, they're just going after, brown-looking people who are trying to work for a living. You don't have to be pro open borders to see the evil that is involved in the way ICE is behaving. I've articulated what I believe is a proper immigration policy. This ain't it. This ain't it. Anyway, if you're for individual rights, then you're for immigration. If you're for individual rights, you should reject the idea of the police stopping you and demanding identification without you having done anything wrong. If you're for individual rights, you should be against rounding people up who have committed no crime. Maybe they violated the law, but they've committed no crime by armed thugs who use force. Anyway. There's a bill in Congress, an attempt to put together a bill in Congress to reform Department of Homeland Security. How about dismantling that department? I mean, I was against the formation of the Department of Homeland Security in 2002 when George Bush did the biggest restructuring of government in American history and created the Department of Homeland Security. He created a monster. And ICE is one of the manifestations of that monster. And the whole department should be broken up, and ICE should be shut down, completely shut down. Let's see. Anyway, this bill is going to supposedly would reform the Department of Homeland Security, would place constraints on agents and how the agency conducts arrests. This is Senator Chris Murphy. He's trying to build a coalition of Democrats to reject the Department of Homeland Security funding, absent reforms. And the bill would include, it would require DHS to obtain a warrant for any arrest that isn't at the border. Yes, in America, you should need a warrant to arrest somebody. They would limit the use of firearms by ICE when conducting civil matters. Immigration is a civil, not a criminal matter. It would require agents to wear identification and remain unmasked during enforcement operations. Absolutely, they should behave like every other police force out there. And it would require Border Patrol, the actual people from the Border Patrol, to do what? How about stay at the border? Yeah, I don't have much hope that a bill like that would pass. Republicans won't let it, but that would be amazing. The woman in the car, if they thought she was obstructing, they could have arrested her. There was no urgency. They could have arrested her later. They didn't have to arrest her right there. They could have let her car go and gone and arrested her at home. They didn't have to shoot her. Don't have to kill her. Nobody, once, given where the shot was taken from, nobody's life was in danger when the first shot was taken, never mind the second and third. Nobody's life was in danger. J.D. Vance today, this is a quote from J.D. Vance, "It was a legitimate law enforcement operation. We were going door to door to try to find criminal, illegal aliens and deport them from the United States. Door to door. They're now going door to door. I don't think that's legal for them to do. And they're not looking for criminal, illegal aliens. They're just rounding up anybody who's an illegal. They're not looking for criminals." J.D. Vance continues to say a prayer for that agent. He deserves a debt of gratitude. No, he deserves condemnation and to rot in hell. He also continues to say that agent is protected by, quote, absolute immunity. He was just doing his job. So now when law enforcement, ICE in particular, shoots you, then they're covered by complete immunity. No problem. Complete immunity. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the agent's video, yeah, it just shows without any question that she is she's moving away from where he's standing. All right, what are we doing here? You want to ask questions? Super chat is open. All right, we'll get to all your questions later. Let's see. Yeah, this is from the Dispatch. I think this is quite good. For the past year, ICE has been involved in a series of escalating incidents that rarely result in repercussions for anyone involved. ICE agents have recklessly caused traffic accidents and then in one incident arrested the person whose car they hit. They've tear-gassed a veteran, arrested him, and denied him access to medical care and an attorney. They have attacked protesters merely for filming them in public. They pepper sprayed a fleeing onlooker in the eyes from a foot away. They pointed guns at a 6-year-old. They've knelt on top of a pregnant woman while they arrested her. They have arrested another pregnant woman, then kept her separated from her newborn while she languished in custody. They have repeatedly arrested American citizens, and they've even reportedly deported a citizen, directly contradicting court orders. As these violence acts keep occurring, the response from the Trump administration is to propagandize and lie as flagrantly as it can. J.D. Vance, offering absolutely nothing whatsoever to back up his words, has called Renee Good a deranged leftist. Homeland Security Secretary Chrissy Nomes claimed Wednesday that Good was a domestic terrorist, was said without a shred of evidence. But it's part of a pattern. The administration and its agencies claim they are not arresting citizens when they are. They claimed an Iraq veteran assaulted officers when videos showed he plainly did not, and no charges were ever filed. They denied pepper spraying an infant when they did. And far from trying to cool tensions or prevent further violent incidents, the administration routinely employs bombastic language on social media in an attempt to normalize brutality, violence, and lawlessness as standard operating procedure. Absolutely right. And the more they escalate this, the more people will get shot, the more people will get killed, the more horrors will occur. And if nobody stands up to them, then they will continue to believe that they can get away with anything. In other words, they can get away with murder. And it looks like they can indeed get away with murder. And it looks like many of you will support them when they get away with murder. So why would they ever stop? The Trump administration has their back. And many people in the public are just willing to do, it's law enforcement. We can't criticize law enforcement. God forbid we criticize law enforcement. And God forbid we challenge them or film them or tape them or tell them that they're scum. So no, this is just reinforced. And if this guy gets away with it, you will see more and more escalation in the violence. You will see more and more Americans being hurt by ICE. Because, look, the reality is that ICE is supposed to go after illegal immigrants, but you can imagine a world in which ICE is used by an administration of a future to just go after their opponents, to just go after whoever they want. We're letting them get away with it. Letting them get away with it. Here's just a few of the standards by which police function. So this is the police use of force rule on moving vehicles. Court police rule taught nationwide. Officers should not intentionally place themselves in front of or in the path of a moving vehicle and then use deadly force to stop it. That's pretty clear. Department of Justice, FBI, and National Policing Standards. This is the U.S. Department of Justice and FBI training doctrine. A moving vehicle alone is not considered a deadly threat. Officers must attempt to move out of the vehicle's path rather than fire, which is what he did, and then he fired. Deadly force is not justified if, quote, the officer voluntarily placed themselves in front of the vehicle, which he did in this case. The vehicle is attempting to flee. There are other avenues of escape. The International Association of Chiefs of Police. Officers shall not fire at or from a moving vehicle unless there's an imminent threat other than the vehicle itself and no reasonable alternative exists. Standing in front of a vehicle creates the danger and invalidates the justification. Invalidates the justification. Minnesota training, police training. Officers must avoid positioning themselves in front of vehicles during enforcement actions. Use of deadly force is not justified when the danger results from officers' own tactical decisions. This is just their manuals. The Supreme Court, this is a ruling by the Supreme Court. An officer cannot manufacture a deadly force scenario and then claim self-defense. This is known legally as the officer created jeopardy. By standing in front of the car, he created the jeopardy. Police are taught, step aside, let the vehicle go, identify it later, do not block the car with your body, do not draw a gun in front of a car. That's just police training. That's not me making it up. That's not my views. All right. All right, we'll get to that. All right, a reminder, maybe you guys are too pissed off at me today to ask questions or to support the show with stickers, but I would appreciate it. In spite of that, we got 200 people watching right now, and we are getting a lot of $2 and $5 questions. I appreciate that, and that's great. But we need some 20s and some 50s so we can even start approaching our goal. We're way out of it. And the show, the show needs some $20 questions, $50 questions to reach our targets. All right, that was ICE. Okay, Muslim Brotherhood. We don't have a lot yet to go, so why should I give you $20? You've done nothing. You've created nothing. You produced nothing that I've benefited from. Why should I give you $20? You are listening to the show. This is to Moon Rock. You're listening to the show, which I am producing. I am creating. You're getting it for free. Why are you free writing? You should contribute something. Some of you do contribute, but Moonrock wants it for free, and he wants me to pay him to listen. Huh. That's pretty funny. Pretty funny. All right, Muslim Brotherhood. This is kind of a funny story, but I think quite indicative of the state of the world. See, the United Arab Emirates, the Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Arab Emirates has decided to cut the amount of money they will give their citizens who go to study in the UK. And generally, they are discouraging their students from going to study in the UK. Why? Because they're afraid, they're worried that when they go to the UK, they will be radicalized by the Muslim Brotherhood. Emirates' fear of Islamic radicalization weighs on exclusion of British universities from scholarships. That is the headline, and this is from the Financial Times. I mean, it's pretty funny. when the Arabs, when the Muslim Arabs are telling Great Britain and its great universities that their students are far more likely to be radicalized into Islam, into into Islamism by preachers in England than they are likely to be radicalized in the Arab world itself. UAE has outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood. It sees it as a entity that is actively engaged in subverting their government. I think the West generally should outlaw the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is dedicating to subverting Western governments, and it should be outlawed. And until, right now, there's more Muslim Brotherhoods preaching and teaching in Europe than there are in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Saudi Arabia and UAE have recognized the threat and done something about it. Europe still pretends there is no threat. Europe chooses to take its head and bury it deep, deep, deep into the sand. Oh, I see on my chat they're still talking about ICE. All right, let's see. Jobs report came out today, and generally, I think there were 50,000 jobs created in the economy last month, way below expectations. Unemployment rate was surprised, went down to 4.4%, I think from 4.6. Growth in average hourly earnings was in line with expectations. Labor force participation is 62.4, which again was in line of expectations. But generally, the clear conclusion is that over the last, really, since April, since tariffs, job growth in the United States has been anemic. Basically, all the jobs are being concentrated in one sector, and that's healthcare services. Almost no other sector has seen job growth, maybe leisure and hospitality. But certainly, manufacturing has seen declines in growth systematically since April. But in every other area, I'm looking at a graph here, in every other area, maybe finance seen a little bit of growth, and government obviously have shrunk quite a bit because about 200,000 government employees have been fired. That's a good thing. I'm all for that, shrinking the government. But all of that is does not bode well. The job market is bad in the tech sector in particular. You see a continuing losing jobs. Overall employment decreased by 5,000 last month. It's down 19,000 over the last year, so over the last 12 months. And not as bad as it was, let's say, in 2024, when there was kind of a so-called tech recession, but pretty bad as compared to what it was in the early 2000s and in the late teens. So a pretty lousy job report. And really, if you look at when it all started, when job growth was going fine. Under Biden, job growth was fine. It really starts in the first couple of months of Trump, job growth was fine. It really starts in April. It starts in Liberation Day. And since Liberation Day, job creation in America has been pathetic. It's been very low. So even though the economy seems to be growing on GDP basis, even though consumers seem to be spending, I think, jobs seem to be hurting. So people are talking about a jobless boom. Stock market keeps going up. GDP goes up, right? And yet there's a hiring recession. Almost no hiring outside of healthcare. Maybe hospitality. 2025 was the worst year for hiring outside of a recession of 2020 and 2008, since 2003. There's almost no hiring in April, since April. No hiring net since April. December is often a decent month for hiring. 50,000 is really low. Now, a lot of that could be that all the illegal immigrants are being deported. They've been working, right? Their jobs have they're leaving, or they're kicked out. But I was told, maybe by some of you, that when the illegals leave, Americans will fill their jobs. It turns out that is not happening. Labor participation rates are not going up. They're stable, but they're not going up. And, hiring is down significantly. If you look at manufacturing, you can come to the conclusion that tariffs are actually doing the opposite of what they were promised. You remember, tariffs were supposed to bring industrial jobs back to America. Well, if you look at hiring in industry, what you're seeing is deindustrialization of the country. That is, across most industries, we're seeing loss of jobs. On a net, there's been a massive loss of jobs since April in manufacturing. The only areas of manufacturing: electrical equipment, fabricated metal production, up. Everything else is down. Transportation equipment, way down. Furniture, way down. Miscellaneous manufacturing, way down. Machinery, way down. Wood product manufacturing, way down. And these are areas in which tariffs should have restricted the amount of goods coming in and where American industry should be booming. And yet it's not working, shockingly. And yet, not unsurprisingly. Manufacturing is contracting. And the only one is metal manufacturing, and that's because metal manufacturing, steel, aluminum, that's because of the tariffs. The tariffs have basically made them the only game in town. And the people who are paying for that are the people who use the metals or want to use the metals and are now paying unbelievable prices, can't afford to keep all the employees, and are firing them. All right. If you look at broader measures of unemployment, including people who want a job but aren't in the labor market, who are working part-time but want a full-time job, then the labor market is in the worst place since the early pandemic, since 2020. Not good. All right, finally, let's talk about fentanyl. That's a fun topic, right? Fentanyl. So there's a paper published in Science today trying to explain what has been happening with overdose deaths from fentanyl. Oh, God, I lost my thing. 1 second. Yeah. Obviously the fentanyl trade, fentanyl showed a huge, massive increase in deaths through 2023. Overdose deaths surpassed 100,000 annually during the early part of the Biden administration. They had increased 20-fold, I think, from like 1990. Overdoses from drugs have increased like 20-fold. But what's interesting is that starting somewhere in 2023, and continuing to today, deaths from overdose have dropped dramatically. I mean, significantly numbers of reductions. So, and this started, I'm sure Donald Trump is going to take full 100% credit for this, but this decline in deaths from overdoses started well before Trump took office. They started in 2023. Now, why? What is the cause? So this is the purpose of the research, is to figure that out. So what they find is that the main reason for the reversal, right, is primarily the fact that China clamped down on the production and sale of the precursor chemicals to make fentanyl. What happened was there was a significant shrinkage in supply. There was a major disruption in the fentanyl trade. They assume it was tied to Chinese government actions. So in spite of Trump making this a fentanyl tariffs and fentanyl this, it sounds like the Chinese actually acted to reduce the amount of fentanyl being produced in Mexico and coming into the United States. And the result of the decrease in supply is less use of fentanyl in other drugs, in the drugs that people are using. And the consequence of that is less deaths from fentanyl injections. China basically controls this in the sense that if they sell the precursor chemicals, it's easy to make fentanyl in Mexico and bring it into the United States. If they don't, it's very hard to find alternative sources for the basic chemicals that go into this synthetic opioid, into the synthetic drug. So it's internal restrictions in China that, China agreed to really under the first Trump administration, but really only started enforcing under the Biden administration, late in the Biden administration in 2023, that have led to this. So you will see a dramatic decline in overdose deaths. Trump will claim it's blowing up boats in the Caribbean, killing people in the Caribbean Sea that did it, maybe deposing Maduro did it, but none of that has anything to do with overdose deaths. None of that has anything to do with fentanyl. It turns out it all has to do with fentanyl, the supply of fentanyl being reduced because of actions taken by China, and reduced starting during the Biden administration. God forbid we give Biden that administration credit for anything, and not give it all to godlike Trump. Researchers also analyzed fentanyl trends in Canada, where criminal groups have also secured precursor chemicals from China. Canada has typically embraced a more public health-centered approach to combating opioid epidemic. They authorize numerous centers where users can consume drugs under supervision and stuff like that. Still, death began falling around the same time in 2023. The Chinese crackdown probably explains the parallel mortality declines, both in Canada and in the United States. This is the quote, Carnegie Mellon professor. What's really striking is that parallel across the two countries, even though the two countries have very different domestic policies. So, yeah, some good news. Overdose deaths are declining. Of course, they would decline dramatically if drugs were legalized, but short of that, we'll take what we can get. It's good that people are not dying in the streets from overdose or for anything else. Except, I guess you guys think it's good when they're dying in the streets by being shot by ICE. As long as it's ICE. ICE are the good guys no matter what. Absolute immunity, according to J.D. Vance. Absolute. All right, that is the news for this Friday, January 9th. There will be a show tomorrow. I will be talking about this book, Ride the Tiger, by the author Viola. I'll be talking about that. That'll be the review. But that won't be the whole topic, Evola, by Evola. I'll be talking about other stuff to be determined tomorrow. I will let you know tomorrow. Timing for the show tomorrow, 2 p.m. East Coast time. 2 p.m. East Coast time. We'll also do a members-only show. Members-only show on Sunday. We'll be talking about Selfishness Without a Self, an Ayn Rand essay. It is in Philosophy Who Needs It. So check out the book, check out the essay, and I hope you join us, those of you who are members. That will also be at 2 p.m. East Coast time. All right. Reminder that we have sponsors. Alex Epstein is the #1 authority on all things energy, electricity, fossil fuels, and environmentalism and climate change. Check him out, alexepstein.substack.com, alexepstein.substack.com. And yeah, you'll benefit enormously from his talking points and just learn so much from the Substack. Michael Williams runs a website and a program called Defenders of Capitalism. Defenders of Capitalism is a defense, a moral defense, a philosophical defense, as well as an economic, political defense of laissez-faire capitalism. Check it out. Michael is a friend, and I work with him on Defenders of Capitalism. I lecture for them usually twice a year. And so check him out, defendersofcapitalism.com. And let's see. Ayn Rand Institute is offering ARI Live, which are courses that you can sign up for. You don't have to apply. You can just sign up and pay. You can get a discount. The discount code is 26YBS10. It's a 10% discount. And you can take the courses live. You can take them whenever you want, really, because they're all going to be up online for you. You'll be able to submit homework or not. I will be teaching a public speaking course. Sign up for my public speaking course. You'll really benefit from it. If you have any ambitions to speak, this is a great course for you. So sign up. It starts next week. So sign up now. AynRand.org/start here. All right, let's go to your questions. And I see you guys came through. We haven't quite made our goal for the second hour, but we still have 40 minutes for that. We have a lot of $2 and $5 questions, but we're going to start with the $20 and $50 questions. We'll start with Geek Economist, who has 50 Canadian dollars. Thank you. He says, thanks for the moral clarity. Please consider reviewing the Good Ice Minnesota Madness with James Valiant. Would appreciate a video with both of you. Understand if you are not interested. Thanks again. Yeah, I'm really not interested in reviewing videos of other objectivists and commenting on other objectivists' commentary on stuff. I see no value in that. I have no idea what James Valiant's position is on the ICE shooting, but I'm assuming you're saying this Good ICE Minnesota Madness with James Valiant, the good video, not that ICE is good. I don't know what Valiant's position is, but I'm not going to review it. So sorry, geek economist. I understand that, and I'm sorry given this 50 Canadian dollars. All right, Andrew. What do you think of this as a psychological moral rule to help one de-repress? Be he former skeptic or Christian saint. One can and should learn the cause of feeling true love and use such knowledge to inform one's choices. I mean, I think, I don't know if that will de-repress you. I mean, it sounds right. You should definitely learn the cause of feeling true love, and you should try, hopefully you can experience that, and you can use that knowledge for other things. But, Andrew, I'm not a psychologist, and I don't know if that will de-repress you. And I don't know if that's enough. I doubt that that's enough. I think you need much more than that. But and it depends. Some people are former Christians, and it has a lot less, of impact on them, and some were raised Christian. It has a huge impact on them. So it really depends on how much they've automatized it, how much they've integrated, how much it's become a part of them. Andrew, Rand said the essential characteristics of an ideal man is rationality. Yep, independence. An aspect of rationality in a sense, a great self-esteem. Why do you think she chose independence and self-esteem as essential characteristics of the ideal? I mean, I think she's doing, let's start with independence, because self-esteem is kind of obvious, but why would she choose independence in addition to rationality? Rationality implies independence. But because, to emphasize, that you're an independent thinker. You are thinking for yourself. An ideal man is thinking for himself. Being an independent thinker, that aspect of rationality, to her was really crucial. And of course, you could add a lot of things because, how is he going to have a great self-esteem? By really living up to all the virtues, not just those two, to being fully in his life. But the self-esteem is also trying to capture a psychological point, and that is that you have internalized the virtues, that you have made them part of you, and you are reaping the benefits of them. That is, you have created an understanding of yourself. Your values are oriented and integrated around your life so that you are benefiting, and the benefit is the reward, the achievement is the achievement of living the good life and being rational and acting in the world is that you have self-esteem. Imagine being rational without self-esteem, which is possible. Because it's possible if you've got a psychological barrier that's preventing it. So the self-esteem captures the role psychology has in a sense, turning your virtues into the value that is self-esteem. But yeah, and pride is crucial here, right? She doesn't mention it, but pride is crucial because pride, taking your life seriously, committing yourself to moral perfection, committing yourself to pursuing morality, pursuing the values, to pursuing, being the best that you can be, to living life fully, which is what pride really means. That is essential to achieving self-esteem because that suggests that you've internalized the idea of the importance of your life and your ability to be successful at living. And that is what makes the ideal man possible. Molten splendor. Short of eliminating ICE, what is it going to take to require agents to unmask, wear vest cams, and adhere to police procedure and training? Well, you would have to have a law, I think, because the Trump administration is not going to do it. Chris Murphy, the senator, is proposing such a law, which would require all these things. But short of federal law that requires it, I don't see how you implement it. I don't think you can do it at the state level. I think it has to be at this federal level. I might be mistaken, but I think that's the case. And if that's the case, and Trump will never do it. Kristi Noem will never do it. So it has to come from Congress. Congress would have to pass a law saying ICE cannot mask. They have to wear body cams. They have to follow police. They have to follow procedure. And then it's training. They have to be trained in police procedure. And they're not. I told you that they've cut training dramatically because they're not meeting their numbers. They're not deporting enough people. So they're not meeting Trump's arbitrary numbers. So they have to get the numbers up. Molten splendor. After this incident, one would think that even the police would protest against the action of ICE since their job is to maintain general public safety and order. Yeah, I think a lot of police would. I think this gives a bad name and a bad reputation and a bad rap to law enforcement. And I think that I would think that they think these people are amateurs and giving them a bad name. And I do think they would love to protest. Thank you, Molten Splendor. Really appreciate the support. All right, let's see. Miga Somsok. $50. And it's his first, I shouldn't say he, I don't know, maybe it's a she. First super chat ever as a sticker. Thank you. $50, first super chat. Really appreciate it. That's great. Maybe I'm not hated by all of you out there. Given my position, this is it's heartening to see the support come in spite of the controversy I'm creating. All right, Stephen, thank you for the sticker. CP Milken, thank you for the sticker. Jeremy, thank you for this. Thank you. And let's see, we've got Darlene, and we have we got Stephen. Whoops, I went backwards. All right, let's see. Marlene, Mary-Aline, and GGFG and Nature Observer and Shazbot. Thank you, guys. Yes, excellent. I've caught up, I think, with all the stickers. But again, thank you, Miga Somsak, for your first super chat and it being $50. Really, really appreciate it. Basically, we're only $68 away from meeting our 2-hour goal. That is phenomenal. We were way behind. Didn't think we'd make it today, but now we're definitely in striking distance. And right now we have a bunch of $2 and $5 and $10 questions, which I'm going to go through. So we've got a few more minutes. And if you'd like to support the show, come on over and you can do it here in a sticker. Don't forget that if you want to support the show on a more regular basis, sustained basis, then you can do so on Patreon, patreon.com. Become a supporter on Patreon. I'd really, really appreciate that. It's the best way, I think, ultimately to support the show because it's predictable for me. Patreon.com or PayPal, either way. All right, Hell Wolf for Liberty. How much would you attribute to the Trump admin? I'm not sure what's going on in Iran? Nothing. Other than, and the best thing that Trump admin has done for the Iranians was let Israel bomb them for 12 days. But then stopped them, unfortunately, when they were really going to go after some of the regime bigwigs on that final day. The Trump administration forced the airplanes to come back home. If Trump had let them go another few days, this would be a lot easier for the Iranians right now. A lot easier. I assume that's what you're asking about, Hell Wolf for Liberty. His threat to use force if they started shooting has not helped because they're shooting. Did it motivate people to come out? I don't know. I don't, maybe, but we'll see if he follows up on the threat. Professor Kraken, thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Evitki, you help me stay informed and ambitious. Thank you. My pleasure. Glad you stay ambitious. Okay, do I understand this question? Can an effect ever happen before a but-for cause? If neuroscientists find the mechanism for doing X came before the command to do X, for example, can the cause effect happen simultaneously? Well, I mean, the cause of something is not, it's not, cause and effect are not a billiard balls. So Rand's view of cause and effect and Aristotle's view of cause and effect is not that X causes Y. It's that Y causes Y. It is the nature of Y to behave in this way given the context in which it exists. So it is the nature of the ball to behave in a particular way. That's the cause of the ball rolling is its nature when hit by another ball. So, you're trying to get at free will, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's not that the idea with free will is there's a cause that comes before the command. There is no before the command. The command is the cause. That is, the command is the starting point. Now, if neuroscientists find the mechanism for doing X came before the command to do X, for example, can the cause and effect happen simultaneously? Yes, they can happen simultaneously. They do, indeed. the effect, the cause is simultaneous with the effect, can be simultaneous with the effect. But it's a big if neuroscientists find the mechanism for doing X came before the command to do X. Yeah, I mean, on most, simple things, you don't literally decide to move your hand away from the stove. Right? There's no command. It just happens. Right? So, yeah, I'm not sure quite what you're getting at. You might want to be a little bit more explicit, maybe, in directly asking. Linda, I fear that the government will cover up, make up evidence to exonerate the shooter. We are no longer being ruled by justice, but by force. I think they're going to have a really hard time. I mean, the reality is that this was photographed by so many different angles. There's so much video of this from every thinkable angle. If somebody does the forensic of the video and really looks at it carefully, yeah, I think it's pretty clear what happened. And I think if this ever came to a court and a jury, I mean, you can imagine a hung jury over some aspect of it, but most likely is that the policeman gets convicted, depending on exactly what he's being prosecuted for. That you'd have to, because I don't know what this counts as. So in this case, the problem is there's lots of places where police shoot or ICE does stuff and it's not being filmed. And then, yeah, they could make up evidence, they could do whatever. I don't trust them one iota. Andrew, Rand was effusive that objectivism requires moral perfection, but also that a good person may evade sometimes. Effusive that objectivism requires moral perfection, but also that a good person may evade sometimes. As he'll correct in the end. How do you interpret this? How does moral perfection comport with making moral errors? Well, first of all, if it's moral errors, perfection doesn't reject error. Evasion is not an error. So you can make mistakes and still be perfect. Perfection is not about mistakes. Perfection is about, are you rational? Are you not? Now, can a good person be irrational sometimes? Yes. In all kinds of circumstances. And if he's committed to working on making himself better and eradicating those times where he's irrational, correcting the mistakes that he made because of evasion, in a sense, working hard on himself to make himself better, that is what morality requires. It requires that you constantly work, identify where you are being flawed and work to correct, work to improve. P. Gupta, also, she was being accosted by one goon at a window at the same time. Yeah, she had the guy trying to open a car, and she basically turns the wheel away from the guy standing in front of her. He's not standing in the middle, he's standing to the side. She turned and she starts driving, and he moves further off, and she's not accelerating, she's not going fast. Even if she hits him, she doesn't kill him. She's, just starting to move. The car only really accelerates when she's shot, and, her leg just slams on the gas. Steve-O, when can you say a person does something before the end? I don't know what that means, before the end. A boy fails a test when he starts the test, not when the grade is released. Why? Can you run a red light before literally crossing the limit light? No. So the boy doesn't fail the test when he starts the test. He fails the test when he finishes the test. Not when the grade is released, but he has to finish the test. That only then is he failed. He hasn't failed at the start. And you haven't run a red light until you've run a red light, which means you've passed the intersection or you've gone into the intersection. So, again, I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at. Abraham, thanks for your moral clarity on the ICE case. The level of confusion surrounding this is astonishing. It's nonsensical to think that shooting her point blank while driving was the safest choice, or in any sense, the correct choice. It's just unbelievable to me the amount of rationalization that people are willing to engage in order to try to justify ICE because it's ICE, because it's the police. If this was a civilian shooting a cop in exactly the same circumstances, I don't think they'd be that forgiving. I think it's really shaped by, we hate illegal immigration. And by the way, I mean, this is clearly what it's shaped by. You saw that in Matt Walsh's tweet. It's shaped by, she was a leftist. How do we know? Because she's a lesbian, right? And she was maybe obstructing ICE. So she's a leftist. Okay, well, so you shot a leftist, big deal. That's basically what it's all about. Everything else is detail. And the line is, how adamant are you about the left being an evil that must be eradicated and must be fought at all costs? And people who believe that, and there are a lot of them, have no problem with the shooting. Or people who believe, yes, illegal immigration, that is destroying our country. That is the cause of all our problems. ICE is doing God's work. They're going to side with ICE. So I don't think it's confusion as it is bias. It's bias. They're biased by their views about immigration and primarily about the left. That's the more dominant one. They hate the left, so it's okay that a leftist died. They hate illegal immigrants, so the guys kicking them out should be allowed to do whatever it takes, literally whatever it takes, even if a few American citizens die in the process, because the evil of illegal immigration is so large, nothing else matters. They are single-minded about that. Clark, in a twisted way, is Mamdani a good pushback to Trump and ICE? At least immigrants will be safe in New York City. Will they? I mean, ICE can go into New York City. So, no, I don't think it's a good pushback. It's never a good pushback. Both sides basically agree that you have no right to your own life, that you have no right to private property. It's just a question of who gets to decide what gets done with your life and what gets done with your property. Mamdani wants, I don't know, some kind of democratic process to decide, or maybe just the proletarian to decide. And Trump wants Trump to decide. But that's not a good contrast. It's not a good pushback. And ultimately, I'm sure they get along fine because they're both power lusters. P. Gupta, ICE should retreat if their unlawful detains and ruse are blocked by protesters instead of American citizens being killed in the streets. Yes. Yes. But sadly, it's not happening. James, I worry there will be no justice here, and the murderer's woman's name will get dragged through the mud in the process. Yeah, the murdered woman's name. Yes, I agree with you. I don't think there'll be justice here. I think they'll claim some kind of immunity and get him off. By the way, we're only $33 away from reaching our goal. We still got quite a few of the $2 and $5 questions, so you can still chime in and help us make the $500 2-hour goal. We've got 15 minutes. James, will the state of Minnesota charge an ICE agent with murder? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I assume if they can, they will, but we'll have to wait and see. So far, the FBI is not letting them investigate the murder. That is, the FBI is not sharing any information with the Minnesota police. Michael, what about selfishness makes intellectuals anxious and insecure? Is it a self-esteem issue? They think a selfish world, they couldn't make it. I think there's some of that, but it's also, I think they've really evaded to the point where they're bought in and fully integrated into the idea that selfishness involves all the ugly things that that are typically associated in the culture with selfishness. That selfish people are lying, cheating bastards who cheat and stab people, or walk all over people to get their way. And I think that's what they believe, and they're adamant against it. And they're not willing to reconsider, and they're not willing to think outside of the conventional, because they are super conventional, really, really super conventional. That's the nature of intellectuals today. They're just they don't want to be. They don't want to let their mind go somewhere new, somewhere different, somewhere that challenges their previous beliefs. Steve-O, can the government categorically prevent illegal immigrants from driving CDL trucks? How about owning a gun? How about free speech? Well, I mean, it depends, right? So, is driving a CDL truck violating somebody's rights? I mean, of course, today they can, but we're talking about in, let's say, an ideal society or better society. Is driving a CDL truck violating somebody's rights? I don't think so. No. So I don't see how they can legitimately ban that. How about owning a gun? I think owning a gun, maybe. I think owning a gun is the Second Amendment applies only to citizens. I don't think it's a universal right. So maybe they can ban them from owning a gun. Yeah. Free speech. How can you ban a illegal from having free speech? Free speech is clearly a universal right. It's a right of man, qua man. It's part of the right to liberty. It's part of the right to life. And therefore, no, they can't ban an illegal immigrant's free speech. Now, again, in the world we live in today, they can do whatever they want with their illegal immigrants. They claim illegals have no rights. Not your average algorithm. Are we living in dystopian times? Well, no, but for some people, they're dystopian. If you're an illegal immigrant, they're dystopian. And we're heading in that direction. Heading in that direction. Not your average algorithm. I'm fairly certain a younger Leonard Peikoff would have turned on Trump by now. I'll speculate here that a younger Leonard Peikoff would have never supported Trump to begin with. Team 1275, cruelty is the point of this administration. Yes, cruelty, particularly anything the Miller touches, is tinged with cruelty. Moonrock, all right, you convinced me. Here's the $5. Thank you. I appreciate that, Moonrock. Liam, Trump and Vance want to make this ICE hit a state-sanctioned murder, like Hitler's essay, a branch of law enforcement only loyal to him. And that's the real danger, is that ICE is a part of the government that is loyal to the president and the executive branch, and more can get away with more. Right now, it only goes supposedly after illegal immigrants. What's next? It's very, very dangerous long-term to have this kind of policing entity at the federal level. I mean, it's not clear that there should be a federal police. Policing is a state function, not a federal function. Hopper Campbell, what do you think of saying the pain you avoid is the strength you'll never get? Yeah, I don't like that. Pain sometimes can make you strong and sometimes can destroy you. Pain is awful. Pain is not a good thing. As somebody who's suffered from back pain most of my life, pain doesn't make me stronger. I mean, up to a point, and certainly when you exercise, the muscle pain you get afterwards is making you stronger. But the pain of losing a loved one, the pain, I mean, there's so many forms of pain. There's no upside. There's a pain-pleasure mechanism. You're supposed to avoid pain and rejoice in pleasure. No, so pain doesn't make you stronger. Some pain makes you stronger, sometimes. Bonnie says, thank you, Ron. Appreciate it, Bonnie. All right, we've made our goal. Thank you, guys. Molten Splendor, thank you, $20. I'm glad you played the Vivek Ramaswamy speech and dissected his thoughts about what makes America and Americans. Even though he didn't state the importance of the individual, as a politician, he seemed to be a good choice. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, in that speech, he was certainly good. I think as governor, he's good. I was distressed by certain positions he had when he ran for president. I thought he too easily catered to MAGA, fed MAGA. He was the first one to raise the possibility of the United States attacking cartels in Mexico and launching a war. He was way too eager to embrace MAGA on immigration, on illegal immigration. He was way too eager to use MAGA's talking points, which I don't think in many cases he believed. I think he's much more free markets than he came across during the presidential campaign. So I thought in the presidential campaign, yeah, I don't like this guy at all. I would never vote for him. And since then, he's been better. He's been better. And as governor of Ohio, yeah, I would vote for him, no question. And I think he can improve, and I think he can grow and hopefully not revert to the Vivek of the presidential race. Andrew, I want to essentialize for myself this very anti-Christian point you make sometimes, and figured I might as well send some more dollars your way. Pride is a moral good. Yes, pride is a moral good. There's recognizing the importance of virtue, recognizing the achievement of virtue, and striving towards being good, being the best you can be, striving to be perfect. It's not about achieving, it's about striving. That is, when achieving is possible, that is not just a moral good. As Aristotle said, the queen of the virtues, that is an amazing moral good that basically makes self-esteem possible and drives you to have a great life. It's necessary for happiness, necessary for flourishing. All right. Thank you, Andrew. All right, Michael, a lot of Republicans I know are turning on Trump. Not the hardcore MAGA nuts, but moderate Republicans are hopping off the bandwagon. Good. That's good to hear. I don't interact with people, so I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, I don't interact with Republicans or Democrats for that matter, so I don't know what people are thinking, but I'm glad if people are jumping off the bandwagon. Michael, also, why don't ICE agents have to wear body cameras like every other police agency? 100% of officers should have body cameras or they shouldn't be law enforcement. I agree with you completely. Again, one of the things we forget is the police are our servants. We are not theirs. ICE is your servant. They need to treat you as a U.S. citizen with respect. Even when they suspect you of something, they can't just come crashing on top of you. So they are your servants. You've got to hold that. The government doesn't exist for you to serve it. It's not about, ask not what the government can do to you, for you, but what you can do for the government. You shouldn't do anything for the government. And the government is there to serve you. And therefore, they have to respect you. Imagine you as a customer. Treat you with respect. And these goons from ICE do not treat Americans with respect. Harper Campbell, I typically don't like comparing American politics to Nazi Germany, but what's happening now is on the spectrum. Yeah, although, again, Nazi Germany was driven by an ideology. There's no ideology here. This is just a bunch of thugs from Trump down. I mean, Miller's an ideologue and J.D. Vance an ideologue, but the people actually executing the policies, just thugs. There's nothing. So that's a fundamental difference between this and Nazi Germany. Michael, he killed her at point blank range for trying to flee, not for weaponizing her vehicle or to protect his life. I agree with you completely. Harper Campbell, if there's a major recession under Trump, will ICE use it cover to engage in more deportations, leading to more firefights, ending in some kind of widespread civil unrest or civil war? I don't think so. But ICE is bringing us closer to civil war than anything else that's happening out there. So I don't know. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think we're going to get a civil war anytime soon. Steve-O, do you think Supreme Clause is a good provision, supremacy clause, or should the federal government be even more differential to the states? No, I think it is a good clause in the Constitution. And again, I think that it is there because of slavery, and it's there in order to make clear that, and it also because of the Confederate States, their constitution, which was not very binding and didn't work very well. It's really to create a country, a state, a nation, and so I do think it's there, but I do also think that states have domains in which they function, which the federal government needs to leave them alone. Policing is much of that domain. Criminal law is relegated to the states, the federal government should assert its supremacy, primarily in cases where the states are clearly violating individual rights, like slavery. Jamie from Canada, if depression was caused actions of U.S. government Federal Reserve, why was its impact felt around the world? France, Britain, Germany. Was U.S. government responsible for World War II, causing conditions for Hitler to arise? That's a big question, but the bottom line is that it wasn't just the Federal Reserve. You could argue that part of the mistakes the Federal Reserve was making were instigated by a big error that the British Central Bank was making when it came back onto the gold standard after World War I at the same exchange rate as before the war, even though they'd inflated the money supply. So so gold was. The pound was overvalued in terms of gold. And as a consequence, gold flowed out of England. So the reality is that under an international gold standard and the way the gold standard was practiced, all the central banks were connected. And many of them made the same errors. Now, the reality is that other countries around the world got out of the Great Depression much faster than the United States. The United States and France were the slowest to recover from the Great Depression. Germany had its own problems. Germany's real economic problems were before the Great Depression, when in the mid-1920s, the hyperinflation, and by the time the U.S. was in the Great Depression, they were already on the other side and recovering from it. But in all cases, these depressions and the hyperinflation of Germany were caused by their own central banks. They all follow a very similar playbook, and they're all connected in really important ways that drove them to irresponsible behavior. But the Fed uniquely made horrible mistakes. Now, did the U.S. government responsible for World War II? If you argue that the recession caused or depression caused World War II, then it has some blame. But I'm not sure World War II was caused by depression. It was caused by, bad philosophy and philosophical ideas. If it hadn't happened under these circumstances, it would happen under other circumstances. The fact is, Germany believed they could have won World War I. They rejected the deal, the peace of after World War I. The German population was ready for another war, was committed to another war, and philosophically they were ready for a dictator like Hitler. And it's just a matter of when and who. God, we've got a lot of questions today. Andrew, respecting a minority doesn't require admiring him or catering to him. One respects a minority member the same way one respects any man, by regarding him as an individual and respecting his rights. Yes, you don't respect somebody as a minority member, you respect somebody as an individual. So it's the individual that you're respecting, not the color of his skin or whatever his background is. Stephen, just obey authority, even if you did nothing wrong. because you're likely to get shot. Maybe, that's a quote, right? Maybe practical advice, but it's a sad state of affair to have to say that. Very, very sad state of affair. And I don't even, I find it hard to believe that I hope not everybody uses that as practical advice, because then the bad guys win. Michael, any value in being a long-range optimist but a short-range pessimist? Well, I mean, what you're supposed to be is objective. You're supposed to be realistic, not optimistic or pessimistic, but realistic. And if that leads you to be positive about the future, distant future, and negative about the short-term future, then so be it. It's not about what is a value, it's about what is right. Jennifer from Canada, I've never fully understood what Ayn Rand was saying in the Fountainhead scene, where Howard has his way with Dominique, and afterwards she says to herself she was raped. What was Rand's intent? Well, I mean, what Rand is trying to do is concretize the inner conflict that Dominique has about her attitude towards values. She is a valuer, but she doesn't want to value in a sense because she thinks the values will be destroyed. The world is not good enough for these values. So she doesn't want to admit to herself her attraction to Rourke because then he's a value and she doesn't want to have values. She smashes values. She destroys sculpture. So she's trying to convince herself that she's not really attracted to him and it was really a rape in order to, justify, what just happened as not falling into the realm of value. So you can't understand the scene without understanding Dominique and her very, very, very confused psychology. But this is part of her character. It's part of her character. And constantly, she wants Rourke, but she's trying to destroy him. She wants him and she's trying to destroy him. She wants him, but she thinks it's rape. I mean, that is the internal conflict going inside of her. Jennifer, is Rand Paul the most sensible politician in the U.S.? On some issues, yes. On many of the domestic issues, yes. On some of the international issues, yes. On other issues, he's terrible. He's terrible in the Middle East. He's terrible in Ukraine. But on everything else, he's pretty good. Certainly on domestic issues, he's the most sensible. Why didn't the Biden and Harris team discuss the decline in death rates from fentanyl during the campaign? First of all, I have no idea. I'm not sure they knew it was happening because there's a lag from when the data happens and when you receive it. It wasn't clear, if this was a real phenomenon, just a bump. And they ran an awful campaign generally. They didn't run a campaign on their achievements, in quotes. They ran a campaign on Trump is horrible. And so they never got to their achievements. But it doesn't matter what they ran. The reality is that fentanyl deaths were declining starting in mid-2023 and significantly. And they continue to decline significantly. That's good news. Okay, can you take a look at Konstantin Kissin's tweet about the ICE shooting and give your thoughts about his thoughts? Thank you, Jennifer from Canada. Yeah, I'll take a look at it. Professor Kraken helping along with the goal. Thank you. Marius, which impact would a free, secular, democratic Iran have for the surrounding countries? Well, huge. I mean, it would have a peace deal with Israel. It would encourage, I think, some of the other Arab states to turn towards more secularism. I think it would embolden a lot of the Muslim intellectuals to, basically adopt a more secular version of Islam and to move to secularizing Islam. I think it would have profound impacts, but it would primarily be on Israel and the West and on Muslims all over the world. It would provide an option, an alternative. Iran is an ancient civilization. It was in Iran that Islam had a golden age. Iran has often led the Muslim world, and here it could lead it into a a new direction of moving Islam and Islamic countries away from Islamism. And you've already got that in small countries like Azerbaijan and Albania, Bosnia, where you've got majority Muslim countries that are not Islamic. But Iran would be a game changer. It's 90 million people. It's a dominant, intellectually dominant place. We will see. Jennifer says, thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. P. Gupta, whether or not the murder gets convicted, ICE itself needs to be de-armed, driven back to borders away from American cities. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeehee, why didn't the Biden-Harris administration discuss the decline in death rates? Oh, I answered that already. Steve-O, would you say there are several levels of goodness, but only one level of evilness? It takes work even to reach the first level of being good. Yes, but I wouldn't say there's only one level of evilness. I mean, there's many levels of evilness. You can't compare Hitler to just somebody who happens to evade, if evasion is evil. Evade the fact that his wife is having an affair. I don't know, something like that. You could argue that's still evil, but it's not at scale, right? I think Leonard Peikoff talks about different levels of evil in one of his lectures. And I can't remember the categories he has. I can't remember, but one of his lectures, he talks about different levels of evil. Jonathan says, looked like MR to me by untrained Rambos. Yeah, I think the ICE are, and the way they're being trained or not trained is, these are just people pulled off the streets. I mean, the criteria are very, very, very low level. Steve-O, are some people who don't deserve self-esteem? They have no right to show their faces among good people, etc., and should accept their lot in life. Well, nobody should accept their lot in life. Everybody has a chance to, unless you've murdered somebody, which is, I think, irredeemable, you have a chance to make yourself better. So I don't think there's people who don't deserve self-esteem. You can make yourself deserve self-esteem. You can become worthy of yourself. So I don't think you give up on people you should give up on people very easily. People have free will. They can rise to the occasion. They can create the kind of character and pursue the kind of values that make them worthy of self-esteem. So I don't think you're inherently, that's it, right? Now, yeah, I mean, people can be so nasty, so evil that they're inherently incapable of self-esteem, but that's a small number of people. Cook says, Ayatollah Khomeini is such a butthole. All right? Yes, he is. Andrew, how do you judge overall value of Trump's deregulation versus harm of his interventions in the economy? I mean, it's hard to judge. The main thing for me is that the deregulation has happened on the agency level and I think is relatively easy to reverse. Deregulation would be a lot more powerful if it was done through legislation. Which you can't get done because of the filibuster. Hard to tell. I think the economy is still growing because of deregulation, but it's not growing in a very healthy way and a very robust way because of all these other interventions. Molten Splendor, any time quotas are the goal without regard to how the numbers are achieved. Corruption will be the result. Yes. Yes, this is ICE. Have a quota to deport. How? Doesn't matter. Just deport them. That will be bad, and that is bad. Andrew, Christianity, love everyone. Rand in James Day interview, you do not have to love everyone. You cannot love everyone. It is a meaningless concept. Yeah, it's absolutely meaningless. You cannot love everyone. Love requires selectivity, demands selectivity. Ryan says, hi, Yaron. I am now living and working in the United States. It has been a dream for a long time. I have 3 people to thank: Ayn Rand, Tult's funny in Yaron Brook. Thank you. Can't send dollars yet. No problem. Appreciate it, Ryan. Jamie from Canada. When train crashed and caught fire in Ohio a few years back, leftists said the train company spent money on stock buybacks instead of increasing safety, and or was yet another case against capitalism and for increased regulation. Yeah, it was just a way to increase regulation. Now, look, trains are heavily regulated. And I suspect, I can't prove this because I haven't looked into it deeply enough, that if you looked at it deeply, the causes of most of these crashes is regulation, is the low standards that regulations set. That in a competitive, free rail industry, there would be a lot less crashes, a lot fewer problems. So, yeah, it was just an attack of capitalism. It was nothing more than that. Again, railroads are heavily regulated and have been. They're the original industry other than banking. Banking and railroads, banking was always regulated, but railroads were the next big industry to be regulated. And from their birth, almost, they were heavily regulated. All right, guys, thank you. Really appreciate the support. Thanks for getting us to our target. And I will see you all tomorrow. And yeah, have a great night in spite of all this BS. You know, life, don't let all this stuff get you down. Don't let all this stuff get you down. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.